remember walking out in Milan, the stadium was beautiful. And I just remember I walked out into the tunnel and there was this huge banner across the whole length of one stand. And it said, in German, it said, "Today's a day to write history." And as I walked out, I just remember looking and thinking, yeah, today is.
Yes, Owen, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
How are you? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
As a tradition, we always get our guests to wear a shirt. So for you, we've got a special shirt. It's your actual match-worn Champions League against Real Madrid. Do you mind popping it on?
Yeah, of course, yeah. To be fair, how could I forget this day? This is just everything I ever dreamed of kind of as a kid, you know, to be on that stage. This is a beautiful football shirt.
Looks good.
Yeah, shame I'm not in the same shape I was when I used to wear this.
When you wore kits, like, how did you like them to fit on you? Was it a thing of how it fitted? Like, did you like it tight? Did you like it baggy? Was that a thing?
Well, you know what? Because of the generation and stuff, it's different. And because I grew up in Canada and I used to play basketball, a lot of my heroes were basketball players. So when I used to wear my shorts, I always wore baggy shorts. And the kit man used to go crazy because he couldn't get them big enough, even though I was quite small. So I always wore bigger shorts, and the shirts weren't as fitted back in the day. I think everything now is more fitted. But back in the day, they didn't really fit as good.
Were shirts a big thing for you playing? Like, did you enjoy swapping shirts or collection shirts? Do you still have a collection at home of players you played against?
Oh, my collection's amazing. I mean, some of the guys, so I never really asked many people, but when I did ask, it was Zidane and David Beckham and Luis Figo and guys I absolutely adored. They were my heroes. Yeah, nice. I got some good ones at home.
So we're going to start with you growing up. Obviously, grew up in Canada. You said obviously you wasn't into football when you was a younger age. So we got Calgary Flames.
Yeah, look. If you're from Calgary, this is what you wear. And you know what? Where I grew up, I used to deliver the newspapers. That was my first job when I was 12. I used to deliver newspapers to all these guys. So to be fair, they were the ones you looked up to in Calgary. These were the athletes. Because of being in Canada and the time difference to Europe, I couldn't watch football really. So I grew up watching hockey. And basketball, and these were the local heroes of the hockey players.
You got basketball. I had to get the MJ shirt.
Michael Jordan. That was my number one. This is why I wore 23 at Bayern Munich. Everybody in North America wanted to be Michael Jordan.
Eventually, you did end up moving to Germany. But before we get there, I want to know, how did that move come about? So you're growing up in Canada. How do you get that eyes of Bayern Munich to come and scout you almost? You know,
a lot of it was coincidence. Seriously, I grew up, because like I said, I played in a football family because of my dad and my brother. And I played in my neighborhood team. And this guy, Thomas Niendorf, he was German. And he left Germany. He came over as a coach in my team, Calgary Foothills, we were called. And saw me, I think, when I was first 12 years old, and I was tiny as a kid. And he said, you know, I had something, and if I continued to grow and progress, and that's exactly what happened. When I was 15, they set up a trial at Bayern Munich, and I didn't even know who they were. You know, I didn't tell them that when I went there, but I went on trial, and they kept me. When
I look at this shirt, I just want you to tell me of that day arriving in Germany. What was that like for you?
I'll never forget it, you know. I was 16, and you know, the thing is, when you're 16, probably a lot of 16-year-olds think the same. You think you know everything, but you actually don't know much. And I moved a long way away, you know, from Calgary to Munich. So landed in Munich on my own. Didn't have my family with me. Obviously, I didn't have an agent because nobody knew who I was or nothing. And I got picked up at the airport. I'll never forget by Mats Hummel's dad. He was one of the youth team coaches.
Got a shirt for you.
And I remember as a 16-year-old kid, it was pretty dark and grey. I remember thinking, I had to figure it out on my own in a way, you know. And it was good. It toughened me up.
Figo.
I remember I was
semi-final game.
Semi-final. This game probably made me become a pro, like a real. I remember I was on a youth team contract at the time.
Before the game?
I was still on a reserve youth team contract at the time. And we beat them in the semi-final. I think he was the most expensive player in the world at the time. I remember before the game, we were just in a tunnel there. And they probably didn't even know, they had no idea who I was, probably, a Canadian kid. So they probably didn't realize how quick I was and things. And I remember looking across thinking, and even Ivan Helguera, he was one of my heroes as well. I think I swapped shirts with him that day. But I remember looking across thinking, I'm in trouble here. Luis Figo's over there. So
you're playing against the most expensive player and you're on a youth team contract. Like, what is that feeling like? You must have
But you know what? You realize then, it's just numbers, you know. And then when you get on the football pitch, that competition side that I got from my brother competing against him, and I remember he tried to dribble around me, and I nicked it off him and ran by him. And then I went by Roberto Carlos. It was like 8 minutes into the game, and this light just went off in my head like, wow, you're here, you know, forget everything. You just got to compete. And I think that was probably my best talent. I could compete. When I was thrown in the deep end, I could find a way to compete. And that game, I remember we won. I came in the dressing room, and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, who was our vice president at the time, I remember I was just getting a drink, and he came over and he said, look, Owen, you outplayed that contract you got. We're going to do a new one next week.
So then that first season, win the Bundesliga, and then you start in the Champions League final against these guys. Walking into that change room that day, seeing your shirt, got the Champions League badge on it, like, what's that feeling like?
I remember walking out in Milan, the stadium was beautiful. And I just remember I walked out into the tunnel, and there was this huge banner across the whole length of one stand. And it said, in German, it said, today's a day to write history. And as I walked out, I just remember looking and thinking, yeah, today is.
So you could have played for Wales, could have played for Canada. Why did you choose the Three Lions? And what was your thought process by choosing the Three Lions? And also, you got a lot of stick for it. So how did you deal with that, the backlash that you got?
You know, I was a Canadian-born kid, but I grew up in a British home in Canada because of the influences, my dad and football and, you know, Sunday roasts and cups of teas. We just did it in a different postcode in Canada. So when I had the opportunity to represent England, you know, it was almost impossible to say no, you know, to play with guys like David Beckham and guys that I looked up to when I moved to Europe. It was a dream come true.
Your second cap is unique because it's the famous 5-1 against Germany, which is unique for you because it was in your home stadium.
Yeah.
So after that game, I want to talk about going back to training. Like, was you giving like Oliver Kahn digs or?
Oh no, you didn't give Oliver Kahn digs.
Not at all.
No chance. He gave you one. That's for sure. And you know what? This game cost me probably 6 weeks of my career when I went back because the club just felt like it was probably going a bit too quick and everything just and it literally was. It just went from, you know, to like 0 to 100 really fast. And yeah, I didn't play for a while after that because I think everybody let me know. But but that's how it is. You know, you gotta take that as well. And that was my first official game for England. You know, to be one of England's greatest ever games was pretty special for me.
We've got some the tournaments you played in for England. So we've got 2002 up until 2006 here. Just pick me through these ones and tell me what memories strike out to you.
This tournament, I got into the squad, and I remember we had some pre-season friendlies, or pre-World Cup friendlies. We played Korea and we played Cameroon. I got man of the match. So all of a sudden, then I wasn't just in the squad. I started. You know, I started the first game against Sweden, then I started against Argentina. Yeah. I got injured, but that was kind of the start for me, where I got a taste for that international football. You know, and it was amazing. Cool.
We'll move on. So then, 2004 Euros and 2006 World Cup.
That's probably the best England team I ever played on.
Most 2004.
Talent. Yeah. Talent-wise, it was literally off the charts. And that generation probably should have won something if maybe we would have got a few different things right. You know, back in the day, you played 4-4-2. Nowadays, probably with the way teams play, we're always trying to get Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard into one team. Paul Scholes somehow was playing left wing, one of the greatest players ever. So it was a shame, really. But the standard of training every day was amazing.
So do you feel like this tournament slipped away more than a 2006 tournament?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, because we started to get, you know, towards the end. Like for me, this was, you know, a big tournament because it helped change people's opinions, really. And because it was in Germany as well. But then I think once I had the red card,
that infamous moment.
Yeah, so it was. You know, even if we would have got to the semis, which would have been in Munich against Zidane, and I remember that's why I was playing like a man possessed because I wanted to play against Zizou. I loved Zidane, you know, as a player, and it was in Munich, and I just said, wow, this is, you know, we got to get there. So we had one less, but we left it all out there, and shame really. But that team, because of, you know, the injuries and suspensions, that team was just stacked.
Yeah.
And we were, even if we would have got to semis, we were kind of running a bit on fumes.
You spoke about playing like you was a man possessed. Like that tournament, you got England's best player of the tournament. Did it finally feel like a vindication of the stick you got when you first chose?
Oh, I mean, I just come off winning the double at Bayern. We won the league in the cup final. I got Man Utd Cup final, and I got announced in the squad, and I didn't realize that. I got announced in the squad. I got booed in the press room when they announced it. So when we got into the tournament, I didn't realize. I remember we were at Old Trafford. One of our last games was at Old Trafford before we went off to the tournament, and there was two guys sitting literally in the first row, and we had applauded the fans as we went round before we went off to the tournament, saying thank you, whatever, give us send off. And these two guys had shirts made up. Bundesliga is rubbish.
No way.
You know, and I never could get my head around like the negativity. But anyway, I had to sit down with all the Sunday journalists, with Adrian Beverton, who was press officer at the time, and it was all the Sunday journals, and they would basically ask me, "Why are you in the squad?" basically. And we just sat like this, had a coffee for about an hour and a half. We sat down, and I said, look, if you really did your job properly and you watched me play, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't say that. So by the end of the tournament, when I walked through the mix zone after that game, they all gave me like a round of applause, those guys. I had my family's name on the shirt. I was trying to make my dad proud, you know, he was my hero, you know, and then to represent England was, you know, with all the history and, you know, was a dream come true for me. Every time I stepped on the pitch, I left everything out there. That's how my dad raised me.
You had so much success at Bayern, so just pick me through which ones.
Bayern had some wicked shirts, you know, because Adidas was obviously, yeah. This was different, yeah. And this is when we signed. This is when we signed Ballack and Lucio from Leverkusen. I think this was the same season, and they called this FC Hollywood for a while. And it was all white. All the boys loved it because it was just white. It was almost like a imitation Real Madrid, you know what I mean? But the cool thing about Bayern was, because they had such a strong relationship with Adidas, our tops were just always nice. Do you know what I mean? They're always just...
It's a fashion statement. This is just ridiculous. Like.
Love it. These ones with the collars I never really loved, you know?
You don't like them?
I don't know, it just felt a bit too like posh maybe. You know, and the one is comfy to wear. Like this, the V-neck, that's comfy. Do you know what I mean? The collars are rolling up and they're, you know, but boys used to always look forward to the new shirts coming out.
Really?
Yeah, definitely, because it's a big part, you know, like maybe not so much in Germany at that time, but fashion was growing, you know, a lot, and the boys were getting more into it and stuff.
So up until this point, your whole life is in Germany. When did you finally feel like it was time to move on to the Red United?
It was so hard, you know. A lot of teams came in from it, pretty much everyone. I was only ever leaving Bayern Munich for Man United. The cool thing is about signing for a team like United, I know it sounds crazy, is you know everyone. You know what I mean? So you don't take much time to really integrate, you know everyone, I knew all the boys. And I remember Sir Alex said to me, he said, one of the reasons I signed you is to help us win the Champions League. I think you can help us do that. And I said, that's why I'm here, boss. You know, so to walk into this team, which was so close, literally, I think they lost out to Milan a couple of times. You know, Rio, you know, you had Rio and Vidic. Then you had Carrick and Scholes. Ronaldo was played off the left in that Champions League final against Chelsea. We had Tevez and Rooney up top. You know, two machines. The team literally had everything. All those guys were leaders. But the cool thing was, I've never been in a dressing room as close knit. You know, like Tevez, Evra, and Ji-sung Park. You know, you got Frenchman, Argentinian, and a South Korean, and they all spoke differently, but they were best friends. And every time you looked at the three of them, they were laughing. You know, they're having a good time. And I remember before games, Patrice Evra was the DJ. Music was bouncing. You had the old English guard, you know, you had Gary Neville and Paul Scholes, the more not into the music type, but then you had that other generation, Rio and Pat, which were big into it, and it all came together. But the football was the most important thing.
I think this game is my favourite Champions League final. It's like two top teams going at it. Like, you played every minute of that game, scored in the shootout. This took me through that entire day, like what it was like to win the second Champions League. It was weird.
Because normally in those games, you go against people you don't know as well. But obviously we were super close, and we were getting together 3 days later. We had a friendly against the US at Wembley. But yeah, it was different that time around, because it was my second Champions League final, and I think I was 27, and that's what I'd signed for. You know, the first one I was just a joker in the pack. You know, nobody really could. But that one, we were ready. And I remember the dressing room before the game. I remember some of the songs that were playing. That American Boy from Estelle, that was one of our songs for that year. And we were just set, you know, we were just so focused. We had a brilliant manager, team was great, and we were just ready for it.
So then, the next couple of seasons is when you're plagued by injury. I think you missed 113 games over 20 months.
I would have never in a million years realized that was probably my last ever game, pretty much. And if I would have known, I probably would have done things differently. But I remember I had a bit of a knee issue, and I had it throughout that whole season. But I always played through it because that's my dad told me, don't complain, get through it. And and basically after that game, I had some treatment after, and I never really got back on my feet. So for me, it was weird to go from being, I probably had the best endurance in 90% of every team I played on, and I was the quickest. So to have those physical strengths, and then all of a sudden to have an injury, and it's like having a flat tire on a car. It was crazy. It was really weird for me. So I literally went from one to the other. And then because of that, I was trying to rehab my knee and come back. Which was always painful.
You came back eventually against Wolves and you got injured straight away. What was that feeling like? Was it too soon?
Well, I didn't realize I already had a problem before the game, but I just wanted to play, and I thought I'll get 45 minutes is better than nothing. I'm not a super sensitive guy, and I remember I went into the dressing room and that made me cry.
Really?
Yeah. And it was just to walk off in front of people I wanted to put on a show for, to be able to not even do 10 minutes after being so physically in control of everything was such a weird feeling. Towards the end, the injuries, made it challenging.
Last question. Basically, we're in a burning building. You've got to save 2 shirts. So the first shirt is based on your proudest moment in a football shirt. The second one is based on strictly how the kit looks. So we're going to start with the first one. Proudest moment in a football shirt. Which one you're saving?
This was a big shirt. It's my first year in professional football.
So saving that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Second one, strictly how the kit looks. Yeah, that's a nice shirt though.
That was the ultimate dream, to play for Man United.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.